and we'll just go right over there. I think you and I both at this point would have Texas at 2-1, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so first conference game, September 24th at Texas Tech in Lubbock. Texas Tech, kind of a weird year last year, and they start out well, fire their coach. They're starting a new regime there. You've heard, they're starting to spend money on the football program with NIL. Every guy getting 25 grand as soon as you basically commit to Texas Tech. So they definitely throwing a little bit of money around, which could definitely help them because that is a decent sized brand. It's not a great brand, but it's bigger than most brands in college football. And they play an interesting brand of football over the last 15 years, so very explosive offensively. We'll see what the new coach has to provide. I expect us to win this game, but again, guys, the past 12 years at Texas, we go into games, we expect to win these games because we have more talent, and we think we have the better coach on the sideline, and then we end up getting disappointed. So what do you think?
Another one of those games, you have to handle business. I think we have the talent gap on them. You can't start out – I have Texas Tech in the lower tier of the Big 12 this year, down there with the Kansases, the West Virginias, stuff like that. So we're going to have to show up, first conference game, ball out, cannot underestimate anybody this year at all. Tyler Slaw or Shaw. Okay, is their still their starting quarterback, I believe, and they're dangerous. They lost their top pass catcher, but the Texas Tech offense is always going to be dangerous.
100%. And Shao got hurt, obviously, in the Texas game. And there was even reports coming into the game he was already banged up a little bit and then obviously broke his collarbone. So that obviously didn't help. And they went to their backup, and he was not very good. So from there on out, we kind of control that game, manhandled them, and they probably want to get revenge. The last 2 years playing them has been crazy. We were down. Went to overtime in that one game where the guy's throwing horns down with 2 minutes left thinking the game's over. We come back, win, luckily. Tom Herman might have been fired after that game if they lost that game. And then we play them next year. The quarterback gets hurt, and we just absolutely demolish them, putting up 70 points. So I feel like this is a dangerous spot. But luckily, UTSA is in there in between to get us refocused and hopefully back on track after the Alabama game. If it was more of a easy opponent, like if you switch UTSA first game and University of Louisiana Monroe third game, I think this is more of a trap game if that's the case, but I feel like they win this game. Next up thank God we don't have to make the trip. West Virginia comes into Texas. Again, the Big 12 is just kind of weird this year. I don't think there's any great team, but I think there's a bunch of good teams and potential good teams. And I think West Virginia is one of those teams, obviously getting JT Daniels. I believe this is Neil Brown's last dance if this team isn't 7-5 or better. He hasn't been great there at West Virginia. He's really gone downhill. And I like the hire coming from Troy, but then he hasn't really lived up to those expectations. What do you think?
They have improved. I don't think they're going to be I think they're going to be a middle-of-the-road top team in the Big 12 this year. JT Daniels is a phenomenal passer, but when you're playing behind a terrible offensive line and you're not as mobile, he may move well in the pocket, but you see when he gets rushed, he's kind of a statue back there. So I don't see them being that much improved. They do bring in Graham Harrell as their offensive coordinator, and he has done well everywhere he's been, like jacking up the points per game everywhere he's been in his first year. So it's one of those games I hate to keep repeating myself, you got to take care of, because they have owned us in Austin, but we have owned them in Morgantown, and it's in Austin. It's in Austin this year, so we have to stop that trend.
Yeah, 100%. Texas, what they really need to do is when teams come into Texas and you're already better than them, you need to win those games very easily. And this is one of those cases where I agree with you. I don't think West Virginia is going to be great this year. I think it'll be an average team, probably 6-6. I wouldn't shock me if Neil Brown gets fired because of that. But you did bring up Graham Harrell, and he's a very good offensive coordinator. He is reunited with JT Daniels because he was the offensive coordinator for him at USC. And I wouldn't shock me if Neil Brown is fired, Graham Harrell takes over there permanently as the head coach, because his name's been thrown around for head coaching jobs now, and he's starting to get to that level, so that'll be interesting. But I fully expect Texas to win this game. So right now we're taking 4-1 Again, the same exact record, same basic scenario as last year, heading into the Red River Rivalry, which I hope I'm going to this year. I'm very excited about that. I think it's going to be a great game. It's going to be obviously a fantastic atmosphere, in my opinion, one of the three best rivalries in college football. And again, kind of another team in the Big 12 to where you don't really know what to expect because you have Lincoln Riley leaving town, going to USC. You have Brett Venables coming in. I expect the defense to take a little bit of a step forward, but the problem is I expect the offense to take a step back. So what are you getting here with Oklahoma? What do you think?
They have lost a lot. They haven't. I mean, they lost Caleb Williams, who was the starter at the end of the year last year. Didn't start at the beginning of the season. They lost their backup quarterback and Spencer Rattler to South Carolina. Kennedy Brooks is gone. You still have Eric Gray. They lost Mario Williams to USC. They still have Marvin Mims. They lost a lot on defense, and Biaconti going to I think that's his name, going to the NFL. They had several guys they lost off that defense. I don't think with everything they lost, even bringing in Dylan Gabriel as quarterback, who I think is a phenomenal quarterback. I have him ranked as number 5 on my quarterbacks coming into the season. But I don't think they have the talent coming in that they lost, and I think they take a huge step back. And right now it's 8:56 Eastern Standard Time, and Oklahoma still sucks.
Yes, they do. And I agree. I fully expect us to beat them this year. We should have beat them last year. I think this is a revenge game. I think we go in very pumped up, even more than usual for this game. I also think usually Texas coaches, year 2, they usually beat Oklahoma no matter what. Even Charlie Strong did it. So I expect them to win this game. That probably pisses off some Oklahoma fans. I don't give a shit. I expect us to be 5-1 after this game, heading into a kind of a weird game. I'm glad it's at home, Iowa State, because Iowa State has always played us close the last 5 years. They don't always beat us, but they play us close. Now, when we go to Iowa State, most of the time they have beaten us. Even when they were bad, when Charlie Strong was here, they kicked our ass that one year. I think we only scored 3 points. So this is a very interesting game. But again, they lose a lot. They lose Breece Hall, Brock Purdy, Tariq Milton transferred over here. They lose a bunch of guys on defense. They have it's basically starting over for Matt Campbell at Iowa State. And I was kind of surprised he didn't jump on board one of those big jobs.
Definitely, with everything that he lost, like you mentioned, with Mike Rose on defense, they lost their best defensive back, Asim Young, to Ole Miss. I mean, everybody seems to see the writing on the wall, with Iowa State being down this year lower than because they had high expectations last year and they did not meet those whatsoever.
Yeah.
But Iowa State's always there for a trap game. They're definitely going to be well coached, but we don't know what they have in the end. But I have this as a W for Texas, and I think we'll be 6-1.
Yeah, that put us at 6-1, and I agree with that. And that's the thing too. After this, we're going to go through the schedule, put what we have up here. The thing is, I have a number in my head. It's probably not going to match what I'm thinking right now, but it's because Texas again has over the years. You look at the schedule like, oh, this team should go 9-3, 10-2, but then realistically, because you know what has happened year in and year out in the history, and that's how you kind of predict the future is based on past history, that they lose games that they shouldn't. And this is 100% a game they should not lose, but they possibly could. I think there's a lot of games like that on this schedule. Next up, we go to Oklahoma State at Oklahoma State, October 22nd, basically a week before Halloween. So this is always a crazy atmosphere, crazy game. Oklahoma State, again, Spencer Sanders seems like he's been there forever, almost as long as Mike Gundy. He's coming back. They lose some weapons. And obviously the biggest loss, in my opinion, is Jim Knowles. I think he's one of the 3 best defensive coordinators in college football. Look what he did when he got there. They got continuously better over the years. I expect him to do the same thing with Ohio State's defense. I'm not saying Ohio State's going to take this massive leap, but I expect a leap for Ohio State this year on the defense side ball and then continuously going forward. So I think that's a gigantic loss for Oklahoma State.
Yeah, but they do bring in Derek Mason from Auburn. He's no slouch as a defensive coordinator. He's not a very good head coach.
No.
But you got to look where he came from.
Yeah.
So I have this as a loss for us. Spencer Sanders does have the experience there at quarterback. They did lose a lot on defense, but I think that Oklahoma State is probably second in the Big 12 right now, behind Baylor. So, and I have us slightly behind them. But it's one of those games. If we go down to 3-10-2, this is one of those games that we could just come out and absolutely dominate Oklahoma State. They don't have a high-powered offense or a high-powered defense. They're just consistent.
Yeah, 100%.
And they're consistent 9-10 win seasons, and they have one of the best coaches in the Big 12 in Mr. Mullet. So
100%. I think he's underrated. He does like the best I think you could possibly do at Oklahoma State. I don't think you can ever really win a national championship there, but I think you can always compete for Big 12 championships, and he basically does that year in and year out. I have this as a win, actually. Now, the next game, I believe, is a trap game. It scares me, and it scares me for a couple reasons. It's at Kansas State. Texas does not really do well at Kansas State. They haven't in the past. You have Adrian Martinez, who I like. He's very inconsistent, though. One game will play great, one game will play bad. But then you have that little guy in the backfield that's doesn't get enough appreciation, in my opinion, to Deuce Vaughn. I think he's one of the 5 best running backs in college football. He's very good. And I think they might be able to draw up some things with him that will give Texas a lot of issues, especially with linebacker, this being deeper in the season. I expect our linebackers to be nicked up. If you put him in the passing game, I think you take full advantage of that. I think Deuce Vaughn can exploit our linebackers. I expect Texas to actually lose this game. What do you think?
I don't have us losing this game. I think we may differ on that a little bit, but Deuce Vaughn, definitely I have him ranked as my 3rd best running back in the nation behind Bijan and Travion Henderson of Ohio State. He is very versatile, and I think with you bringing in Martinez to be your quarterback, they had Skylar Thompson last year, and he was a good hard runner, but Martinez can change a game when it comes to his running ability. But I've seen what he done at Nebraska, and it did not impress me, and I don't see him coming into another middle of the road Kansas State team. But I see where you're coming from, because Kansas State's always good for beating somebody that they shouldn't.
100%. And they have a good coach. What he did at North Dakota State, obviously creating that powerhouse. And then he's been okay at Kansas State. It hasn't been great. They dealt with a lot of injuries, though, over the past couple of years. So if they're healthy, I think they definitely give us issues, and that's why I have it as a loss. Next up, we play Gary Patterson's old team. I fully expect this to be a win for the simple fact that Gary Patterson is definitely going to be in that defensive room that whole week, game planning against his team. He's probably going to use that same hatred that he used to have for Texas and use it against TCU. I expect TCU going forward to be good, though. I like Sonny Dykes and what he's doing in the Dallas area, recruiting-wise. But this year, I don't think they have enough. I think Texas wins this game by a lot.
I do, too. I like Max Dugan, their quarterback. He's in a quarterback battle right now. But I see with them losing Zach Evans to Ole Miss, they lost O'Shawn Mathis to Nebraska, their leader on defense. I just don't see them having the horses to be able to keep up this year.
100%. Like I said, going forward, the guys they got down there, I think they're going to recruit very well. I like Sonny Dykes. Kind of fits in what I think TCU should have been doing this whole time, getting enough athletes on offense and just throwing it around a lot. So I think that they'll be good going forward, but not this year. I think we'll beat them by 3 touchdowns. Next up, sadly, it's a revenge game. It 100% shouldn't be, and we should beat this team by 40-plus points. It's Kansas. They were obviously terrible last year. They've been terrible forever, but they've continued to beat us. So we need to go in there and beat them by at least 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I agree. Last year, we were dinged up, didn't have the depth. We can make any excuse we want to for that Kansas game. They got up for it, and we didn't. So I definitely see us having a revenge game. And like you said, that's so sad to say that we're going to have the revenge game against Kansas. That breaks my heart to say.
The only time you should ever say that is in basketball, and that's literally the only times those words should be uttered, because in football, you should never have to say that, and sadly, we've lost to them twice in the past 7 years. So we need to break that trend. We need to continually beat this team into the ground like they should be. They're a walking mat of the Big 12, and we need to treat them as such. We got a super chat from Tim Prongley. Thank you for that, Tim. What's up, D4? Loved your latest video. If you guys aren't sub, you are missing out. 100%. Go subscribe to D4 Sports. Go like his content. Subscribe over there. And while you're at it, can you please like this video? Subscribe here if you're not. We have content coming forward. Like I said, I do a post-game show after every game, and possibly I could be doing a post-game show live from the Red River Rivalry. So if you don't want to miss out on that, please subscribe to this channel. Please like this content. Mark does a fantastic job across this platform. Thank you guys very much. Next up, the last game of the year and potential game to where Texas could be playing for a possible shot at a Big 12 championship. The same with this team, Baylor, who won the Big 12 championship last year. Dave Aranda did a fantastic job. This team is very good. And I think they're going to be pretty good this year as well. What do you think?
Yeah, their quarterback last year when he came in and replacing Jerry Bohannon, he was definitely a firecracker. In their, I believe it was their bowl game, that he barely missed a pass, and he was absolutely money. I think he brings them a different type of offense than Jerry Bohannon did, because Jerry Bohannon was mainly a runner. He contributed in the running game, and I think this guy's a better pure passer. So I think their defense is going to be stacked, and Dave Aranda's probably the best coach in the Big 12 right now, as far as being proven. And I hope Sark overtakes that this year as the number one coach in the Big 12. I think Aranda and Matt Campbell are two of the best in the Big 12 right now. But I want to give us this win. I want us to be 10-2. But I don't see this being a win for us.
I don't either. This is where we agree on our losses. I think Baylor wins this game just for the simple fact I don't see Texas going 10-2. I think 9-3 is the ceiling here. I expect somewhere between 9-3, 8-4, and this Baylor team is going to be good again. Blake Shapen, like you said, opens up so many more possibilities. Gary Bohannon was okay, not a great quarterback. He's not super accurate, but he's a little bit more mobile. But Blake Shapen can throw it all around the yard, and I think that opens up a lot of possibilities for that offense. I think obviously the defense is going to be good because Dave Aranda is a fantastic defensive coordinator. So I think he's, like you said, a very good coach, probably the best coach in the Big 12 right now between him and Matt Campbell, and probably Mike Gundy if you want to throw him in as well. So I think Baylor does win this game. I think that puts us at 9-3. Do you agree that we're a 9-3 football team this year?
I do agree that we're a 9-3 football team. If we were to drop one that we shouldn't, 8-4, I still think it's a successful season for us. And 10-2, I would absolutely be jumping for joy if we took out an Oklahoma State or a Baylor, which I'm not going to lie, we're definitely capable of doing. And I think that we are definitely primed and ready on offense. It's just our defense that we need to worry about. I would love to see it be if we lost to an Oklahoma State, if we lost to a Baylor, I'd love to see it turn around and have a rematch with them in the Big 12 championship game.
100%. That would be fun. And I think that would if we lost to them, that would actually benefit us as the loser. I think you learn more from losses, to be honest with you. So that would be interesting. I don't see that happening, though. I agree with you 100%. I think 10-2 is the max we can do this year, in my opinion. And we should be super excited if that were to happen. I think that would bode insanely well. I think the recruiting would even go to another level if that's even possible. And then just moving forward also into the SEC, that would even gain more momentum. So that would be amazing. I expect the same thing, though. I think 8-4, 9-3, and 100% that's a good season. 8-4 is still a good season. That's a 3-game turnaround. That's very good. If you have another 3-game turnaround the next year, guess what? You're 11-1, and that's 100% possible because, in my opinion, it's not this year, guys. It's a building block year. Next year is the year for Texas to compete for a Big 12 championship and possibly a national championship.
We definitely have the guys coming in. I definitely love this recruiting class that we brought in this year. And what it's shaping up to be next year. People can say what they want to about Arch Manning, but this kid is bringing people with him. People want to come play with him, and it's showing by the amount of talent that we have committed right now. And whether they stay committed, you never know about a 17-year-old kid, what they're going to decide on. But we definitely have the building blocks with this phenomenal offensive line recruiting class that we're bringing in this year with the Kelvin Banks, with the Cam Williams, with the Devin Campbell. I'm excited. It's definitely shaping up, and I hope we have a head of steam coming into the SEC.
100%. And guys, throw your questions in here. We'll probably take questions for 15, 20 minutes, then jump out of here. We've gone through a lot so far, and I've had a good time doing it. But again, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. It really helps out. It helps build Mark's brand. And go over to D4 Sports, help grow his brand, like his content, subscribe over there as well.
Yes, sir.